My name is Michael Harris, and I've always been the guy people could count on. 41 years old, 15 years into a marriage I thought was built on bedrock, working the same IT systems analyst job for the past decade. Not exciting, maybe, but stable, dependable. Those used to be qualities I took pride in. I met Laura when we were both 26. She worked in marketing at a firm 3 floors above my company's server room. I still remember the first time I saw her in the elevator. Designer heels, perfect blonde hair, that laugh that could make everyone in a 50-foot radius turn their heads. What a woman like that saw in me, I never fully understood. I was the quiet tech guy who preferred debugging code to making small talk, who wore the same rotation of polo shirts and khakis, who got nervous ordering coffee if the line was too long. But somehow, impossibly, she chose me. "You make me feel safe," she used to say, tracing her fingers along my jaw in bed. "You're real, Michael. Not like those fake corporate sharks I deal with all day. We built something good together. Or I thought we did. A 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester, annual trips to the Caribbean, Saturday mornings at the farmer's market, Sunday dinners with her parents. I handled the finances, kept our systems running, both digital and domestic. She brought the energy, the social connections, the spark that kept our life from becoming completely routine. 15 years. That's how long I believed we were partners. The changes started 3 months ago, subtle as a shifted pixel on a monitor. Laura began staying late at the office. New campaigns, she explained, demanding clients. Her phone became a constant companion, screen always tilted away from me, notifications silenced. She'd step out to take calls, claiming it was her boss, her mother, anyone but who it probably was. The wardrobe shifted too. Designer bags I hadn't seen her buy, shoes that cost more than my monthly car payment. "I got a bonus," she explained when I asked about the Christian Louboutin heels. "Don't I deserve nice things after working so hard?" Then came the criticism, delivered in small, precise cuts. "God, Michael, would it kill you to try a restaurant that doesn't have a drive-through option?" she'd snap. Or, "Sarah's husband surprised her with a weekend in Paris." When was the last time you surprised me with anything? I tried. Made reservations at that French place downtown she'd mentioned. Bought flowers, not grocery store bouquets, but real arrangements from the expensive florist. She accepted these gestures with the same enthusiasm she'd show for a correctly filed tax return. "You're being paranoid," she said when I mentioned she seemed distant. We were in bed, but she was facing away from me, scrolling through her phone. "This is what you do, Michael. You create problems in your head because you're bored. Maybe if you focused on your own life instead of monitoring mine, we'd both be happier." The accusation stung because part of it was true. I was monitoring her, in the small, shameful ways of a suspicious spouse, checking if she was where she said she'd be, noting when she showered immediately after coming home, wondering why she'd started wearing matching lingerie sets on random Tuesdays. But paranoid people don't find real evidence. And the next morning, while Laura was in her spin class, I found evidence. Our credit card statement, usually my domain, had been hidden beneath a stack of her magazines. 3 charges stood out like corrupted data. $400 at Chez Laurent, $300 at the Ritz-Carlton bar, $89 at a wine shop in a neighborhood neither of us frequented. All from dates when she'd supposedly been working late or out with her sister. The front door opened as I stood there, statement in hand. Laura walked in, post-workout glow on her face, wearing yoga pants that cost more than most people's entire gym wardrobe. But it was the necklace that stopped me cold, a delicate gold chain with a diamond pendant I'd never seen before. She hummed something light and cheerful, setting down her gym bag, completely unaware that her husband's world had just shifted off its axis. Or maybe she was aware. Maybe that was the point. "Hey, babe," she called out, heading for the stairs. "I'm going to shower." "Can you start dinner? I'm starving." I folded the statement, placed it back under the magazines, and went to the kitchen. Started dinner like she asked, like a good, dependable husband would do. But something had fundamentally changed in those 3 minutes. The quiet life I'd built wasn't quiet because it was peaceful. It was quiet because I'd been living it alone. They say you should never spy on your spouse. That trust, once broken, can never be repaired. But those people have never stood in their kitchen at 2 a.m., unable to sleep, wondering if their entire life is a performance where they're the only one who doesn't know they're on stage. My IT background became my weapon. Not maliciously. At first, I told myself I just needed to know. One way or the other, I needed the truth. I started simple. Our shared iPad, the one Laura used for reading magazines and browsing Pinterest, still had her email logged in. She'd gotten sloppy, probably because she'd deemed me too stupid or too trusting to look. The deleted items folder was a goldmine of carelessness. Restaurant reservations for 2 at places I'd never heard of. Confirmation emails from lingerie websites, items I'd never seen her wear. But it was the email from 2 weeks ago that made my hands shake. Can't wait for tonight, beautiful. Same room as last time. Tell your husband you're working late again. I love how gullible he is. R.R. Richard Coleman, I discovered after some searching. Real estate developer, drove a white Lamborghini, had a reputation for collecting married women like vintage wines. His Instagram was full of yacht parties, ski trips to Aspen, the kind of life Laura apparently thought she deserved. I installed monitoring software on our shared devices that night. Programs I used professionally to track system intrusions, now repurposed to track my wife's betrayal. Every keystroke, every deleted message, every website visited flowed to my personal laptop like data through a fiber optic cable. The text messages were the worst, not because of the sexual content, though that was there, graphic and enthusiastic, but because of how she talked about me. Laura. He made dinner again tonight, overcooked chicken and underseasoned vegetables. I swear 15 years and he still can't figure out that food should have flavor. Richard. Why do you stay? Laura. Are you kidding? He pays for everything. The house, my car, my entire lifestyle. He's like a boring, predictable ATM. I put in minimal effort and money comes out. Richard. That's cold, even for you. Laura. Please. He should be grateful I'm still here. A man that pathetic? He's lucky I don't just leave him entirely. At least this way he gets to pretend he has a wife. There were dozens of exchanges like this, each one a precise demolition of the man I thought I was in her eyes. She shared our intimate moments as comedy, mocked my attempts at romance, even took photos of me sleeping and sent them to Richard with cruel captions. Look at him, mouth open, probably dreaming about server configurations. God, how did I waste 15 years on this? But the revelation that transformed my hurt into something harder, sharper, came from an email thread between Laura and her divorce lawyer. Yes, she already had one. She was planning her exit strategy with military precision. She'd been documenting my controlling behavior. Apparently, asking where she was going constituted emotional abuse. She'd taken photos of my home office during its messiest moments, ready to paint me as unstable. She'd even recorded me during an argument about the credit card charges, edited to make it sound like I was threatening her. The plan was elegant in its cruelty. She'd continue the affair, drain our accounts slowly, provoke me into a confrontation she could use as evidence, then take the house, half my retirement, and alimony that would keep me working until I died. All while painting herself as the victim who'd escaped an oppressive marriage. The beautiful part, she wrote to her lawyer, is that he's too proud to fight back publicly. He'll give me whatever I want just to make it go away quietly. It's who he is, pathetically conflict-averse. I sat in my office, surrounded by the servers and cables that constituted my professional life, and felt something inside me die. Not dramatically, not with tears or rage, but quietly. The way a circuit dies when the power is simply switched off. The Michael who believed in partnership, in working through problems, in the fundamental goodness of the woman he'd married, that Michael flatlined at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, staring at evidence that the last 15 years had been a one-man show. But something else booted up in his place. Someone who understood systems differently now. Someone who recognized that if Laura wanted to play games, she'd chosen the wrong opponent. I closed my laptop, went upstairs, and slid into bed next to my wife. She murmured in her sleep, instinctively moving away from me. I lay there staring at the ceiling, planning. She thought I was weak because I was quiet, stupid because I was trusting, an easy mark because I loved her. She was about to learn that the quiet ones are dangerous precisely because you never hear them coming. The next evening, Laura came home with unusual energy, practically glowing. "Michael," she announced, her voice carrying a tone I couldn't quite place. "We need to talk. I have something important to discuss with you, something that's going to change everything between us." I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing more of her deleted messages, and gave her my full attention. "Of course, honey." "What's on your mind?" I replied. She smiled, and for the first time in 15 years, I saw the predator behind those perfect teeth. Laura positioned herself at the kitchen island like a prosecutor about to deliver a closing argument. She'd changed into one of her power outfits, the kind she wore to big presentations. This was rehearsed, prepared. She'd probably practiced in front of Richard. "Michael, I'm going to be direct with you because I respect you too much to lie," she began. Respect. The word hung between us like a bad joke. "I've met someone," she continued, watching my face for a reaction. I gave her nothing, just steady eye contact and folded hands. "His name is Richard Coleman." "You might have heard of him. Coleman Development?" I had, of course. I'd spent the last week learning everything about him. The 3 failed engagements, the sexual harassment lawsuit settled out of court, the cocaine habit he thought was a secret. But I just shook my head slightly, playing my part. "Richard and I have fallen in love," she declared matter-of-factly, like announcing a change in dinner plans. "It's real, Michael. The kind of passion and connection you and I never had. I need you to understand that this isn't about hurting you. It's about me finally choosing happiness." "I see," I said quietly. "So you want a divorce?" She laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, Michael." Sweet, simple Michael. "No, I don't want a divorce. That would be messy, expensive, and frankly unnecessary." The kitchen suddenly felt smaller. "I don't understand," I admitted. "Richard is going to be coming here twice a month, to our home. We'll use the guest room. I've already had it redecorated. You'll continue your normal routine, going to work, maintaining the house, handling our finances. Nothing has to change for you," she explained with chilling casualness. I stared at her, genuinely stunned by the audacity. "You want me to... what? Live here while you have an affair in my house?" "Our house," she corrected sharply, "and it's not an affair if everyone knows about it. I'm being honest with you, which is more than most wives would do. You should be grateful." "Grateful?" I repeated. She leaned forward, her voice taking on a harder edge. "Let me paint you a picture of the alternative. I file for divorce, citing emotional abuse and neglect. I have documentation, Michael. Those times you raised your voice, the way you monitor my spending, your controlling questions about where I go. My lawyer says I could get the house, half your retirement, and enough alimony to maintain my lifestyle indefinitely." She pulled out her phone, showed me a video. It was me, from the previous week, asking about the credit card charges. But the audio was edited, chopped up to make it sound threatening. "Where were you? Who were you with? You're lying to me." My voice, but not my words. Not in that order. "I also have witnesses ready to testify about your antisocial behavior, your mood swings, how you've isolated me from my friends," she continued, putting the phone away. "It's your choice, Michael." Accept the new arrangement, or lose everything in a very public, very ugly divorce where you'll be painted as the villain. I sat silent for a long moment, processing not just what she was saying, but how she was saying it. The woman I'd loved for 15 years was gone, if she'd ever existed at all. This creature in front of me was something else entirely. "When?" I asked finally. "When what?" she responded. "When did you stop loving me? Or did you ever?" For just a second, something flickered across her face. Then it was gone. "Love is a luxury. People like you can't afford to give people like me. You're a provider, Michael. It's what you're good at. It's all you're good at. I gave you 15 years of companionship in exchange for financial security. That's more than fair," she stated coldly. "And if I say no? If I tell you to get out?" I asked. She smiled, cold as January rain. "Then by next week, everyone at your company will know what kind of man you really are. I've already laid the groundwork, told my friends about your dark moods, your controlling behavior. Some of them have even seen bruises." "Bruises? I've never—" I started. "Makeup is amazing these days," she interrupted, examining her manicured nails. "Richard finds the whole situation amusing. He says any man who'd let his wife walk over him like this deserves what he gets. He's probably right." The room fell silent. Laura waited, expecting me to explode, to beg, to give her the dramatic scene she could secretly record and use against me. Instead, I stood up slowly, grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door. "Where are you going?" she demanded, thrown by my lack of reaction. I turned at the door, looked at her one last time. "Out!" "Michael, we're not done discussing," she called after me. I left, closing the door quietly behind me. Got in my car, drove. No destination in mind, just movement. Windows down despite the cold, letting the November air shock my system. I pulled over at a scenic overlook 20 miles from home, stared out at the lights of the city below. 15 years. 5,475 days of building a life with someone who saw me as nothing more than a wallet with a pulse. She wanted me to finance my own humiliation, to go to work every day knowing I was paying for her lingerie, her dinners with Richard, the hotel rooms where they laughed about what a pathetic fool I was. To come home to my own house and hear them through the walls, then serve them breakfast in the morning like hired help. The Michael who'd driven away from the house 20 minutes ago might have accepted it, might have rationalized it as the price of avoiding conflict, of maintaining some semblance of normalcy. That Michael might have convinced himself that half a marriage was better than none, but that Michael had died sometime between the kitchen and this overlook. The one who drove home 3 hours later was different. Calmer, focused, a man who understood that some problems required permanent solutions. Laura was already in bed when I returned, fake sleeping but monitoring my movements. I went to the guest bathroom, brushed my teeth, looked at myself in the mirror. Same face, same features, but something fundamental had shifted behind the eyes. When I finally climbed into bed, she stirred, rolled toward me. "Have you thought about what I said?" she asked quietly. "Yes," I answered. "And," she pressed, "invite Richard for dinner tomorrow night. I'll cook," I replied. She sat up, surprised. "Really? If this is how things are going to be, we might as well be civilized about it. I'll make that Chilean sea base you like," I explained. She actually smiled, reached out to touch my shoulder, the first affectionate gesture in months. "I knew you'd be reasonable. You've always been so practical." "Yes," I agreed, staring at the ceiling. "Practical." She settled back into bed, satisfied with her victory. Within minutes, her breathing deepened into genuine sleep, secure in the knowledge that she'd won, that her pathetic husband had accepted his place in her new world order. She had no idea that she'd just invited Richard Coleman to his last meal. I woke at 5 a.m., 2 hours before my alarm. Laura slept beside me, one arm thrown over her face, mouth slightly open. Vulnerable, trusting, completely unaware that her husband had spent the night planning with the same methodical precision he applied to system architectures. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen island where she'd delivered her ultimatum the night before, and created my shopping list. Every ingredient chosen for a specific purpose. Every course structured like a subroutine in a larger program. The gourmet market in town opened at 8. I was their first customer, moving through aisles with quiet efficiency. Chilean sea bass from the fresh case, Laura's favorite as promised. Chanterelle mushrooms, microgreens, truffle oil, a particular vintage of Bordeaux I knew she loved, plus a second bottle of something special from the locked case. Special occasion? The clerk asked, ringing up the $400 worth of ingredients. You could say that. Having an important guest for dinner? I replied. At the wine shop, I selected carefully. The Bordeaux for the meal, yes, but also a very specific bottle of dessert wine. Sweet enough to mask any additional flavors. Expensive enough that they'd drink it without question. Excellent choice, the sommelier commented. The 2015 Chateau d'Yquem. Someone's lucky. They certainly are, I agreed. Back home, I found Laura in the kitchen, practically glowing with satisfaction. She was on the phone, with Richard, based on her tone. That throaty laugh she never used with me anymore. He's actually doing it, she said into the phone, not bothering to lower her voice. I told you he would. No, completely serious. He's already shopping for dinner. I know, right? It's almost sad how eager he is to please. She noticed me with the grocery bags, didn't even attempt to hide her conversation. I'll see you at 7, baby. Yes, he'll be here. He'll probably offer to park your car. After she hung up, she approached me with something resembling affection. This means a lot to me, Michael. Your acceptance, I mean. It shows real maturity, she said. We all have to adapt to new realities, I replied, unpacking the sea bass. Richard's actually curious about you. He wants to understand what kind of man would, well, be so accommodating, she added. Then I look forward to satisfying his curiosity, I responded. She studied me for a moment, perhaps sensing something different but unable to identify it. Then she shrugged, grabbed her gym bag. I'm going to yoga, then the spa. Want to look perfect for tonight. Take your time. I have a lot of preparation to do, I told her. After she left, I began my real work. The kitchen became my laboratory, every action precise and measured. I prepared 3 courses, each more elaborate than the last. The kind of meal that would impress Richard, make him feel superior to the boring IT guy who'd learned to cook from YouTube videos. By 4 p.m., everything was ready. The base marinated, the sauces prepared, the wines decanting. I'd even set the dining room with our wedding china, a detail that would amuse them, I was certain. The pathetic husband using his wedding dishes to serve his wife's lover. I went to my office, closed the door, and made my final preparations. Logged into my work VPN, started a complex system diagnostic that would run for hours, creating an alibi with timestamps. Sent emails to colleagues about a project I was working on, scheduled to deliver throughout the evening. Digital breadcrumbs proving I was in my office, working diligently while my wife entertained her guest. From my desk drawer, I retrieved a small bottle. Rohypnol. Surprisingly easy to acquire when you knew the right people in IT, guys who went to different kinds of parties than I did. Tasteless, odorless, and when mixed with alcohol, incredibly effective. At 6:30, Laura emerged from our bedroom looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Red dress, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. She'd never worn it for me. How do I look? She asked, spinning slowly. Perfect, I said honestly. Richard's a lucky man. She smiled, pleased with what she took as submission. You're handling this so well, Michael. I almost feel bad for misjudging you. Almost. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 p.m. Richard Coleman stood on my porch in a $3,000 suit, holding a bottle of wine that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that easy confidence that comes from never having to work for anything. "Michael," he said, extending his hand like we were business associates. "Laura's told me so much about you." I shook his hand, noting the unnecessary firmness of his grip. "All good things, I'm sure," I replied. He laughed, loud and false. "Well, you know Laura. She tells it like it is." I led him to the living room where Laura waited, watched them embrace in my home, on my furniture, surrounded by photos of the life we'd built together. They kissed, long and theatrical, ensuring I saw every second. "Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes, I announced. "Can I offer you both some wine?" "The good stuff," Richard declared, settling into my chair. "I'm curious to see what you consider good wine." I poured the Bordeaux, handed them their glasses, watched them toast to new beginnings while I returned to the kitchen. Through the doorway, I could hear their conversation, not even trying to be discreet. "I can't believe he's actually doing this," Richard commented. "I told you. He's completely domesticated." "Like a well-trained dog," Laura replied. "It's almost disappointing. I expected more fight from him," he said. "From Michael?" Laura laughed. "He hasn't fought for anything in his entire life." Path of least resistance, always. I plated the first course, carried it to the dining room where they'd moved, setting each dish down with practiced precision. They barely acknowledged me, already deep into their second glass of wine. The meal progressed exactly as planned, each course more elaborate, each wine pairing perfect. They grew louder, more intoxicated, their inhibitions dissolving with each glass. By the time I served the sea base, they were openly groping each other at my dining table. "This is actually excellent," Richard admitted, surprised. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" "YouTube," I said flatly. "Amazing what you can learn online." He laughed, missing the irony. "Maybe you should have been a chef instead of... What is it you do again?" "IT systems analyst," I answered. "Right. Computers," he said like it was something shameful. "Well, at least you're useful for something." Laura giggled, running her hand up his thigh. "He's very useful. Aren't you, Michael?" "I try to be," I replied. I cleared the plates, brought out dessert, poached pears with the Chateau d'Yquem. I poured generous glasses of the dessert wine, watched them drink deeply. "A toast," Richard proposed, raising his glass. "To arrangements that benefit everyone." "To knowing your place," Laura added, looking directly at me. I raised my water glass. "To endings." They laughed, not catching the meaning, and drained their glasses. I refilled them immediately. 20 minutes later, their conversation began to slur. Richard's hand missed his glass, knocking it over. Laura giggled, tried to stand, and stumbled back into her chair. "I feel..." she started. Then her eyes rolled back. Richard lasted another 30 seconds, his large frame fighting the drugs longer. He looked at me, confusion and understanding warring in his rapidly dulling eyes. "You..." he began. Then he was gone too, slumped forward onto my grandmother's tablecloth. I stood, walked around the table, and began the next phase of my plan. Everything had to be done quickly, efficiently. I'd rehearsed this in my mind a dozen times. I put on latex gloves from under the sink, then checked their pulses. Strong but slow. They'd be unconscious for at least 2 hours, more than enough time. Looking at them there, unconscious at my dining table, I felt nothing. No rage, no satisfaction, just the same calm focus I brought to complex technical problems. They were bugs in the system, and I was going to debug them permanently. I went to my office, grabbed the zip ties I'd purchased that morning along with the groceries. Hardware stores don't track cash purchases, and zip ties have 1,000 legitimate uses. When I returned to the dining room, Laura had slumped sideways in her chair, her expensive dress riding up, hair falling across her face. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago, young, vulnerable, beautiful. Then I remembered her words. He's like a boring, predictable ATM. The moment passed. It was time for the final course. I worked with systematic efficiency, treating the unconscious bodies like any other technical problem. Zip ties secured their wrists, not tight enough to leave marks, but firm enough to prevent escape if they woke early. Richard was heavy, 200 pounds of gym muscle. I used the furniture dolly from the garage to move him to his Lamborghini. The irony wasn't lost on me, using our household tools to erase their future. I loaded him into the passenger seat first. His key fob was in his jacket, one of those diamond-studded things that screamed compensation. Laura was lighter, easier to manage. I placed her in the driver's seat, arranging her naturally, like she'd simply fallen asleep at the wheel. Lake Henshaw lay 40 miles north, surrounded by undeveloped land, deep enough that the county posted warnings about underwater currents, remote enough that teenagers no longer went there to party. The access road was unpaved, abandoned since the state closed the boat launch. The Lamborghini purred to life. I drove carefully, obeying every traffic law, using routes I'd mapped to avoid cameras. My phone sat on my desk at home, pinging with automated work emails, establishing my alibi. The November night was moonless. Richard stirred once, mumbling something incoherent. I didn't look at him. They'd become cargo, nothing more. The lake appeared through the trees like spilled ink. I'd chosen this spot specifically, a natural launch that dropped off sharply into deep water. The current here was strong, fed by underground springs that would carry anything down and away. I parked at the edge, engine running, and got out to make final preparations. The zip ties came off. They'd raise questions if found. I positioned Richard's hand on Laura's thigh, her hand on his chest. Lovers taking a late-night drive. Standing beside the car, I looked at Laura one last time. 15 years of marriage, 5,000 days of what I'd thought was partnership. You wanted excitement, I said to her unconscious form. Something more than your boring husband could provide. I reached through the window, put the car in drive, and wedged Richard's shoe against the accelerator. The Lamborghini lurched forward eagerly. It hit the water with less noise than expected, the engine dying immediately as water flooded the intake. For a moment it floated, headlights still illuminating the dark water. Then it tilted forward and sank. 30 seconds. A few bubbles, then nothing. The lake swallowed them completely. I walked back to town on a hiking trail I'd mapped earlier, 5 miles through woods I knew from boyhood. It took 2 hours to reach the gas station at the edge of town. I bought coffee with cash, called an Uber. The driver didn't question why someone needed a midnight ride from a gas station. Home by 1 a.m. I cleaned the dining room methodically, dishes, table, every surface they'd touched, not to hide evidence, but to reclaim my space. The next morning, I began my performance. Called Laura's phone at 9, her office at 10, her sister at 11. By noon, I was filing a missing persons report. When did you last see your wife? Detective Martinez asked. Yesterday evening. She went shopping, maybe meeting friends for drinks, I answered. Was this unusual? He inquired. Recently? Number. She'd been going out more. Said she needed space, I replied. The investigation was thorough but futile. They found Laura's car at the mall where I'd left it. 3 weeks later, a fisherman's net dredged up something unexpected. By then, the water had done its work. The autopsy found alcohol and sedatives, both consistent with voluntary consumption. Accident, the coroner ruled. 2 intoxicated individuals, poor judgment, tragic end to an apparent affair. I played the grieving husband perfectly, shocked by the affair, devastated by the loss. Laura's friends who'd known about Richard avoided me with guilty expressions. 6 months have passed. The investigation is closed, filed away in some basement archive. Detective Martinez sent a final email last month, formally closing the file. The house is entirely mine now. Laura's closet is a reading nook. Her gym is my office where I run the consulting business I started 3 months ago. When you're not managing someone else's happiness, you have energy for your own ambitions. I make more money now than ever before. Clients appreciate my methodical approach, my calm under pressure. Nothing phases you, one CEO observed. Nothing does anymore. I don't date. The thought of letting someone that close again feels like volunteering for surgery without anesthesia. Besides, I've discovered I enjoy solitude. Quiet mornings with coffee and code. Evenings working without someone sighing about being ignored. Sometimes I think about that night. Not with guilt. That requires believing you've done something wrong. I gave Laura what she demanded. Excitement, surprise, a permanent escape from her boring life. I gave Richard the ending his story was always heading toward. They wrote their own ending when they decided I was worthless. The lake might be developed for tourism soon. I drove there last weekend, stood where the Lamborghini entered the water. A young couple was taking photos. "It's so romantic," she said. "So serene." They had no idea what story they were standing in. Laura's parents still call. They've aged years in 6 months. "She loved you," her mother insists. "Whatever was happening with that man, she loved you." I know, I lie, because truth would hurt them more. My transformation is complete. The naive Michael who believed in love died when Laura delivered her ultimatum. The one who exists now understands people as systems, inputs, outputs, predictable responses, exploitable weaknesses. Some might call me cold. I prefer efficient. I've debugged my life, removed malicious code, and now everything runs smoothly. Last night, I found one of Laura's earrings behind the dresser. A real diamond. She'd never wear fake anything. I held it to the light, this remnant of a life I'd once thought was real, then dropped it in the garbage. That's all she is now. A deleted file, purged from the system. I sleep perfectly. 8 hours of dreamless rest in a bed that's mine alone. I wake without dread, work without distraction, exist without performing as someone's disappointing husband. The house is quiet tonight. Not the oppressive quiet of a dying marriage, but the peaceful quiet of a life lived on my own terms. I'm closing this account not as confession. I have nothing to confess. Not as therapy. I'm not broken enough to need fixing. This is documentation, proof that even the quietest people have limits, that when you mistake kindness for weakness, silence for submission, you might discover the boring, predictable ATM has been calculating interest all along, and the bill, when it comes due, is always higher than expected. Somewhere in Lake Henshaw, a Lamborghini is becoming part of the ecosystem. Fish swim through its windows. Algae grows on leather seats. Nature reclaims what money bought, indifferent to its value. A monument to arrogance and cruelty, paid for with my dignity, but purchased with their lives. A fair trade. Laura wanted me to know my place. She was right. I did need to understand where I stood. But she misunderstood what that place was. I'm not the victim. I'm not the pathetic husband who accepted humiliation. I'm the quiet one who solved the problem, permanently. The clock reads 11:47 p.m. In 13 minutes, it will be 7 months since Laura's ultimatum. Since she explained how worthless I was, how she'd parade her lover through my home while I paid for the privilege. She thought she was the predator and I was prey. But prey doesn't plan, doesn't calculate, doesn't wait for the perfect moment. Predators do, and the best predators are the ones you never see coming. The ones who look harmless, boring, safe. The ones you dismiss as worthless until they show you what ruthless efficiency really looks like. Laura was wrong about many things, but right about one. I am practical. Practically speaking, she had to go. And now she's gone. Forever. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.